First and foremost, thank you again for having me. I had to run around to get out to do some juakali. I was doing my juakali. I had to sign some documents which I've done, now I'm back. First of all, this idea of Africa, it's an idea we should get rid of. You sit here, even the very country I live called in Kenya was designed by the white man. We don't even own that those maps. This idea, this fantasy of Africa should get out. There's no African way of doing things, and there's no other way of doing things. We either talk about the traditional society is gone. We have the modern society. If we want to develop, there's no way out. You have to embrace timekeeping. You have to embrace efficient banking. You have to begin saving. You have to enforce the rule of law. You have to do all those things that the modern states are doing. So any questions with Africa I never answer because they are stuck in a time that does not exist. There's no African way to anything. Neither is there a European way to anything. There's the right way and the wrong way. And the right way right now where we are in this world is democracy. It is working for people. It's not a perfect system, but we are yet to invent a better system. So I think that democracy is basically not complete where there is no rule of law. And democracy is also not complete where the doctrine of human rights is misunderstood. The Nutio spoke here, and they were talking about human rights, belonging to people because they're human beings, being inherent, being inalienable. So we must get to a point whereby we understand the doctrine of human rights as the anchor of modern society, but we also should avoid the confusion. Human rights, according to me, have a hierarchy. They are not all equal. There are a hierarchy and they are supposed to organize society. But modern society has made all human rights equal, and therefore, depending on who is claiming the right, they are able to enforce their right. And especially for us, when you go to the question of, like when you talk about the question of abortion, people will tell you about a right to choice, or a right to bodily autonomy, as they call it sometimes, if you want to be lofty. But because they've got the power to enforce that right, then the right to life of the embryo who is not born, who cannot enforce that right, is extinguished. So we go into the rule of the jungle, where rights are only enjoyed by the powerful. And that's what we should resist. That rights have a hierarchy and they enforce themselves. The right to life is superior to other rights. It must be protected and we must have that hierarchy. Once you understand that, then you have a democracy within that context. You begin aspiring towards a perfect society. But democracy, devoid of that context, tends to get us sometimes some confusion and chaos. So for me, there's no choice to democracy. And Kenya is called a Republic of Kenya. A republic means a polity governed by law. And we must go back and make Kenya a republic. We must go back and make sure that public office is for service, not for personal enrichment. And we must go back and have that everybody is equal under the law. Then we shall have a republic, and when we do that, then that day you'll sing the national anthem, and you'll see your country in the national anthem. Today when I sing the national anthem, I don't know which country I'm singing to. I don't know. It's so detached from reality. It makes no sense. So that for me would be the question I would have, is that we have no choice but to work towards a democratic society, a modern society, a society that creates wealth, a society that makes people rich. We cannot afford to begin importing everything. When I was growing up, we did not import roads. Today we are importing roads from China. Why is that happening? We had the Ministry of Works building roads. Today, Chinese are coming to build roads. Why are we importing roads? If we can't even put the pebbles together to walk on, what kind of state are we building? So we must go back to the state, a time when the state is a provider of goods and services, and the market is subservient to political action. The primacy of political action must be there, and the budget must be the only organizing tool in the society. The budget passed by parliament. So that's how we shall begin enjoying the fruits of democracy. What was the other question?
The second one is how can the Catholic professionals contribute to free and fair elections? And the third one I have found is that there are some constituencies who are not represented, one being Ogunja. How can that be? And yet the deputy president was sworn in without what we think is the instrument that should help us to get these elected members.
I think I'll begin there. I think that's a question that is based on misunderstanding. There was no requirement for IBC to approve the nominee for deputy president. There's no requirement for that in the law. There's a requirement in the Act, in the County Governments Act, which requires the IBC to approve the nominee for deputy governor. If one leaves office and the governor is nominating a new nominee. Let us get that very clear. So the appointment of Kindiki did not violate any law. That's why some of us never talked. Did not violate any law. And I think after the courts did not suspend the impeachment of Gachagua, the only logical step was to have a vice president nominated and failed. Now, that should answer that limb. Number two, the absence of representation in various places at some wards, and even that MP from Northeastern who was killed by a motorbike Tomboya has not been replaced, and so on. So that will only happen when you have an IBC in place to be able to gazette the vacancies, unfortunately so. And so that's the position. So what we should do is work towards establishing the election body. But we also need to realize that Kenya is not the first country in the world to do these things. Ask ourselves, why does the IBC fail every time? Away from politics, go back to the conceptualization, from the conceptual part. What are we doing wrong that we can't get an independent IBC? And the question, or even the other commissions, why have the other commissions failed? Ask yourself, why are they not functioning? It's because we have chosen to do an impossible thing, to create an independent body using an ad hoc committee. You can't. It's a lot of nonsense. Right now, people are in court because they want to sit on that ad hoc committee, meaning the motivation is the payment are going to get there. If money is the motivation for these ad hoc committees, then they'll go there and give these jobs to the highest bidders. And then once they are nominated, and there are no consequences to that. Today, if I asked you, who appointed Chebukati? Will you tell me? Who appointed Cherera? Will you tell me? They did their work and went and they got their pay. So, you cannot use an ad hoc committee to create an independent body. It has never happened and it will never happen. And even now what we are doing, we're going to end up with the same problem. Because the fellows sitting on that whole committee, some represent something called religious group. What are these? What is religious group? What is this thing called religious? Do they have a seat in parliament? No. So what are they doing there? Civil society. Do we have a seat in parliament? What are you doing on these panels? You see, these are the fellows bringing problems. If you go to all the democracies, electoral bodies are formed by political parties. The crooks choose one of themselves to sit there. And they check each other and nothing goes wrong. We tried it in Kenya. What gave us the 202 elections was a commission formed by political parties, IPPG. What gave us the 205 referendum was a commission formed by political parties, and you could not rig because ni wakora wenyewe wanaangaliana. That's what happens across the world. The things of bishops coming there, they don't know. The bishop have got no fight in them to fight these characters. They'll even be scared when they see these fellows looking, they're charging for the seat. They need a fellow devil to check them. That's how commissions have. Look at Europe, look at USA, look at Japan, look at Australia. Who are the electors? They are nominated by political parties. Only 2 countries have got independent commissions, Brazil and South Africa, and they work. What's the difference? The commission is formed by standing government institutions. The Chief Justice, the other judges, whatever, they're the ones who nominate electors. And because they are holding substantive offices, they will not bring an idiot. Because if that idiot messes, you'll go back and say, Mister, why did you bring this character to sit here? So because they have got their jobs to keep, they always give you, they will be able to birth an independent body. Because they've got a bigger stake. Well, if these people mess, the buck stops with them. You are also appointed. But an ad hoc committee cannot produce an independent body. And that's why all our commissions have failed, because we are using ad hoc committees to fill them. They can't. So even the IBC we are doing right now, we are not going to get anywhere. And by the way, even the last time, the law that was bringing Wakina Chebukati and whatever, I'm the one who went to court and threw it out. And Parliament was said form another law. So they have formed another law. They again played monkey last time, I've thrown it again out. So there's another one they made. But all at the end of the day, the universe runs on certain laws. You cannot get an independent commission out of an ad hoc committee. We will not. And if we can't do it, let us give the political parties, let us get the bishops out, let us get all these good people out, let the dirty people come in. And the dirty people will watch each other, and they will make sure nobody plays dirty. That's how it's going to work. Otherwise, these people call the bishops, the religious, they don't represent anybody. They are irrelevant when it comes to that political fight. So let us do that.